Let's learn from what is happening in South Korea before it gets worse. Seamus Bruner, Director of Research at the Government Accountability Institute and author of *𝐸𝑚𝑡𝑟𝑜𝑙𝑖𝑔𝑎𝑟𝑐ℎ, Exposing the Billionaire Class, Their Secret Deals, and the Plot to Dominate Your Life, which ironically, they all lean towards communism, Seamus.
Yeah, Carl, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's crazy how this China problem has spread everywhere. South Korea is just a symptom of the problem. We just did a big report on Tim Walz in these secret police stations in Minneapolis, these overseas China service centers, which are all over the world. And so, yes, I mean, the South Korea situation, I think it also highlights just how you should not underestimate Joe Biden's ability to gaff things up, as Barack Obama said. I mean, this is now another continent in which you've got conflicts brewing. The world is on fire, and Joe Biden is holding a can of gas or, sleeping at the wheel.
Yeah. But, Seamus, you brought up an interesting point. Tim Walz, this guy, I don't want to say almost because it was a pretty substantial victory for Trump, but there was a chance at one point that he would become the next vice president of the United States. This guy made, some say 3 dozen, some say 2 dozen, whatever. He went to China a ton of times, and he was a teacher. Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, that's right. He invited Chinese diplomats to his gubernatorial inauguration. He was giving speeches to China's United Front Group organizations throughout Minneapolis. There are still these service centers all over the United States that are operating. You showed the one that was busted in New York City, but China is operating with impunity within our country.
Yeah, and people don't get it. The other thing they don't get, I want to put up this picture of North and South Korea again. Okay, so if you see that dark landmass between South Korea and China, there's no lights on except in Pyongyang, which is the capital where Kim Jong-un is. I mean, this is unbelievable that people, you can see this, you can Google this, you can go online and look at it and say, wow, North Korea is a disaster. They don't even have crickets at night because people are eating them because they're in such starvation. And yet people are still advocating, well, socialism and communism, it just wasn't done right. We have to do it better here. Right, Bernie?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, even the upcoming stars, you mentioned AOC and her progressivism, but Gavin Newsom in California, who many think is going to run in 2028, he's got some of the worst ties to China of all of them. We're going to be breaking some big news on him in the coming weeks.
Ooh, yeah, and he also, which is interesting, he won't clean the streets of California up for his own people, but he made that place immaculate when Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, came over there. And I was blown away by it. I was like, why in the world are you putting on a parade for this guy?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, he comes from San Francisco, Gavin Newsom, and there's a huge Chinese American population there, expat country, a lot of dissidents, good Americans now who are critical of China, but there are so many operatives in China. I mean, Dianne Feinstein, the late Dianne Feinstein was Gavin's mentor. She had a chauffeur who was a Chinese spy for 20 years. You've got Eric Swalwell, who was with Fang Fang, on camera getting compromised. So, I mean, the list of left-wing progressive politicians in this country who have been totally compromised by China, especially Joe Biden, it's staggering.
Yeah, well, the Chinese government also doesn't you can't become a billionaire in that country without permission or the allowance of the government. So, obviously, Hunter Biden talks to all these Chinese billionaires. He gets $2 billion in cash for a private equity fund. That wasn't for nothing. And yet now we can't even, he can't be charged with anything for that because of this pardon, which who knows if it's going to stand or not in a legal term. But we have potentially the greatest compromise ever, and 48% of the country is like, no, it's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who hasn't heard of the Henniges automotive deal that Hunter Biden helped the Chinese military acquire a Michigan-based defense supplier. This has been reported, but not widely enough. I mean, we broke a big story on this. This proves conclusively that Hunter Biden sold out his country, and when Joe Biden pardons Hunter, he's effectively pardoning himself.
Yeah, and also the fact that China is buying a ton of farmland right outside of our military bases. Again, why are the alarm bells not going off?
Yeah, I mean, we could spend the whole hour on the fentanyl and the COVID that they exported here while they were cornering the supply market and not telling anybody about it. Even protests. A lot of the protests during the Trump administration came from Chinese-backed individuals. So it's staggering.
Yeah. Well, Seamus Bruner, I appreciate you keeping this at the front of the news cycle.